Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and this is our weekly TV news. Even though there wasn't one last week, but that's neither here nor there. Stop poking holes in my opening intro, damn it. As opposed to my closing intro,
There's
which I'll
an
do
easy
later.
solution.
What's that?
Just don't say the word weekly.
It's supposed to be weekly though.
Just say weekly-ish.
Weekly.
Mostly weekly. Just something that gets around it.
Why did we have no news last week? Well, it's because last week Dark Season 2 launched. We were still doing Told to Die Young, and a number of other things are on. It's been a very busy TV recording schedule this past couple of weeks. So we are here.
And thankfully, we're kind of in that post-upfronts bit where the news cycle for TV tends to be on the quiet side.
It's a little bit quieter. We have a decent amount to talk about, but I mean that's 2 weeks worth as opposed to just the 1 week. So
Yeah.
we'll get into it. Obviously, we talk about renewals, cancellations, premieres, shows in development, pilot orders, all that kind of thing. That's what comes up over the next little while. Could be anything from 30 minutes to 90 minutes. I mean, we've been at either end of that scale on a fairly frequent basis.
Yeah. I think we've been both above and below that as well.
So we'll start off with some renewals. One Day at a Time has been renewed, and we've never really spoken about this show before. But the reason why I'm bringing it up and the reason why it's interesting is because this was a Netflix show that was cancelled. This was cancelled after season 3 on Netflix, but Pop are picking it up for season 4.
Which
Pop's a kids channel traditionally, I think. I've heard of Pop. I've heard of
okay.
It exists.
Well, I haven't obviously, but
so season 4 of Pop, 13 episode season is going to happen, and worth mentioning that the show is owned by CBS Productions, and CBS do own Pop. So I mean there are some ties like behind the scenes to why it ended up somewhere here.
I think that the most interesting about this is because there was interest in picking this up after Netflix cancelled it a couple of months ago now. I remember there being a bit of a fan outcry. And the talk going around was that no one could pick it up because there was clauses in the Netflix contracts that it couldn't, the show couldn't air on anywhere else for X number of years. And reportedly, they have that in most of their shows. So, what deal did they have to do to get around that? How much did they have to pay Netflix to kind of break that?
I don't know. I wonder like if part of it's like, hey, we'll air it on a traditional channel. It will not be a VOD thing. I wonder if that's like part of like softening the blow. The Netflix will like, okay, well, we won't charge you that much then to take it off our hands, or like
that might help. Yeah,
I wonder like what weird caveats.
Yeah, because it's not a direct competitor.
No.
Not anymore.
And it's not even like it's like CBS proper or even like a major cable network. It's Pop. This is not Sci-Fi or USA or
it's one I'd literally never heard
or
of
FX. This is like, no, we want this to continue in some form, and hell, this might be great for Pop. Pop might get some of their best figures ever because this is a show that people care about.
I'm pretty confident they will.
But yeah, as far as I know, this is the first time that another network or service or whatever have saved a show that Netflix had cancelled. Because normally we joke about Netflix saving things that other networks cancel. So that's just really funny and worth noting. So One Day at a Time, if you're a fan, you get in season 4. Congratulations. Speaking of Netflix, though, they did renew The Rain for a 3rd and final season, which seems to be their kind of MO right now, because Dark get a 3rd and final season renewal. A lot of their shows seem to get cancelled after 3rd season, so maybe this is just a sort of... And The Rain did seem like a show from the 1 or 2 episodes we watched of it. It does seem like a show that, like Dark, does have an ending in mind. Like, it wasn't just going to go on forever. Not as much as... I mean, Dark is so interwoven and tightly knit.
I think The Rain was a little bit different, where it felt like if they'd really wanted to, then maybe it could have been their Walking Dead kind of style thing.
They could have Walking Deaded it, to use a horrible phrase.
I think the key reason that Netflix likes having 3-ish seasons is diminishing returns. They're not like a traditional broadcaster where, okay, hey, we're going to do adverts on this show. So, the more seasons you get, typically you pick up more viewers, right? So your 6th season often does better than your 2nd. So therefore you can charge more on the ads. So there is some incentive to go up on those sorts of shows. With Netflix, however, though, once they've got you, they've got you. They're not getting any more money out of you. They've just got to give you enough to keep you around to not cancel your subscription. And then the new shows are what typically brings in new subscribers. It's, oh, hey, I want to see that specifically, rather than, oh, hey, season 3 of something's out. So it kind of makes sense to me that that's their model.
It makes some amount of sense, but ultimately, though, if they get a reputation for cancelling things and not letting them, I mean, obviously, this is a case where they're saying this is a final one and they're going knowing that. But if they get into a trend and they become known as people who cancel shows after a few seasons, it will actually hurt them in the long run because people will know to not get invested.
I think it's a case of they're in a transition period where they've kind of realized this. That's why we're seeing things that are actually cancelled after 3 seasons and not having an ending. I think we're moving into a period where we will see, oh, it's third and final, and you'll know that going in.
That said, though, I hope this is not that strict because I don't want every show to be 3 seasons exactly. That's kind of shitty. Some shows should be 5 seasons. Some shows should be 7 seasons.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not saying it'll be every show. I'm thinking the lesser performing ones will after a season or two will probably go, okay, that's a 3 season.
It's a worrying trend, is what I'm saying. I don't care why they're doing it, but it's a worrying trend. Because if I fall in love with a Netflix show, and well, some of them are fine to just be 3 seasons, and if it's 3 high quality seasons and it has an ending, of course I'm happy with that. But it's a worrying trend to think that there's some shows where they feel like, no, this could be a great long show, and it'll never. Because I mean, they already have shorter seasons for a start. Like it's not like some of these shows are only getting 8 or 10 episodes, and then so the episode count for the entire show is actually close to what one network season is. And obviously we've said in the past that we think network shows have too long seasons for most shows. Not all shows, but for most shows.
Yeah.
I do think there's a marketplace to have the longer shows as well. And I don't want to see either one win and the other one die out. I want a healthy dose of both.
Well, I do as well. I just, like I say, from Netflix's perspective, I understand why there is little incentive for them beyond the reputation of, oh, we don't have that, all these long shows. Beyond that, they have little incentive to pump money into the same show over and over if it's not drawing in new subscribers.
Yeah, but a lot of people who leave after they finish the show they cared about and they come back because of a show that comes back.
Here's the thing. I don't have the figures, right? Netflix is the one with those numbers. Are they seeing how many people are going and then coming back? They know better than I do. If they're making these decisions on a repeated basis, I have to assume not that many people are actually doing that.
Well, no, because they're maybe staying around for other things, but I have to imagine some people do come back, and I have to imagine that some people, like if you cancel the right show, or the wrong show, depending on how you want to phrase it, that's like, oh well, in that case I'm cancelling, because like, yeah, I was kind of dabbling in these other things, but ultimately I was waiting for that to come back. If that's not going to be a thing anymore, you know what, I will get Apple for the next few months, or I'll get Disney for the next few months.
I agree that is a possibility. Like I assume Netflix has enough data to know how many people are leaving and coming back for shows. They can. I assume they have some way of judging that.
I guess what I'm saying is that you can sit and tell me why they're doing it. I don't really care why. I care about the end effect on the shows.
No, fair enough.
And I don't I don't care what the reasons are for doing it. I want the shows to. I always want what's best for the shows. I always want what's best for the final product. And always like having this weird thing where almost all shows seem to be ending around 3 seasons. And it's not every show, but it's a lot of them. It makes me worried for Glow coming back, or Dear White People, which are getting their 3rd seasons this year. Like, what are the chances of either of them getting season 4, despite the fact that they both do quite well and they're pretty loved by most people who enjoy them?
I would weirdly suspect they maybe have a better chance because they're not only are they short seasons, but they're shorter episodes. So I think it's a little bit less work. It's probably less money. Compared to some of the bigger ones, just even on just in terms of just pure shooting schedule, there is less time spent shooting because there's less hours being made.
Yeah, possibly. I think it's one of these things where they can't expect new people to show up for a season 5, but that doesn't diminish like the people who have stuck around and came originally for that show. Like the way I think about it is the people who showed up for season 1 of a show because they were interested in it, like. You owe it to them to a point. Obviously, if it goes downhill or if no one's watching it, because this is the other thing. Netflix also do have their own viewing figures. They know exactly how many people are watching everything. So, and I think that does have a factor. They might say it's not as important, it might not be as important, but I do think when we get to like a fourth season and they're looking at the figures and go, no, they same if not more people are watching this than when it first launched. You know, all the people that we've collected over the last few years from various other shows or who came in season 2, season 3, the numbers have actually went up. So it's like, how many people do we want to piss off when the sole thing is, oh, it's not bringing in new people.
Well, here's the thing. I guess when they're looking at those accounts of okay, so X person watch Orange is the New Blacks. That's coming back soon, right? With this last season, every season that's presumably gone done. Let's assume it went up every season in its overall viewing figures. If they take someone who's been there since the start and they went, okay, we owe it to them to carry on, sure. But if they look at all the other things that they watch, are they watching enough on a consistent basis and going, okay, if we get rid of this show, they're still going to have quite a lot there that they're going to carry on watching. From Netflix perspective, they're looking good. They're not actually going to cancel their subscription because they've got enough there. It's a calculated risk.
So the weird thing is, though, is I feel like you argued that the wrong way around. To me, that's more of a reason why they should. Like, if this is a dedicated customer who's actually engaging in lots of other content that you're producing, that would be an argument to me that, no, you do owe it to them even more to not piss them off by cancelling the thing they cared about in the first place.
I think the point is to them, even if it pisses them off that they've lost, maybe their favorite show, if there's enough else there that they're not going to, out of protest, cancel their subscription, that's good enough for them.
I mean, yeah. Sure. I don't know. I don't care about their side of it, though. I don't care. I don't care. I don't know why you're so adamant on defending everything they're doing.
I'm not. I know Netflix as a company is in quite a lot of debt as it is. They can't make all the shows indefinitely. It's all because they have no other revenue stream other than subscriber count. I can see the logic of what they're doing, and it might hurt some shows in the short term transition period. But overall, if people go in, okay, I'm getting 3 seasons, and it's gonna, and they plan accordingly. I'm okay with most shows being that way on Netflix, at least, because I still have shows from everywhere else that I can enjoy at different lengths.
Okay, and it's been on Netflix. They also cancelled Chambers after 1 season, so that's gone.
People were really upset about that because apparently that was very open ended to the point where they never even got into what powers they had. In that show, like the main character got some powers, but it was always very unclear. It was always a mystery as to what the powers even were, and it never even got as far as answering that. So people were very upset by that one.
No, I didn't see any outcry for it, but I mean,
okay.
I also
liked it were very upset.
I also never heard anyone talking about it when it launched. So
no, I thought it looked terrible, but apparently the people who did like it, all 6 of them were very upset.
But speaking of Netflix again, we got a premiere date for Dear White People. Dear White People is returning on August 2nd, so that's coming in August.
Slightly later than previous years, I think. I feel like it was usually July. Although I could be misremembering.
No, it was May, June. It was about the same time, first 2 seasons.
Okay, yeah. So this is a bit later, because the first 2 seasons, it was almost bang on a year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so here's an amusing story. So 20,000 Christians signed a petition this week
I saw this.
to stop the continuation of Good Omens. Which, before we even get to the really funny part, Good Omens is
a limited series.
It's a limited series. It's self-contained. There was never going to be any more of it. But the really funny part, though, is that this petition was for Netflix to stop making Good Omens.
It was to Netflix, please cancel Good Omens.
And Netflix Twitter account actually put a response out in their Twitter saying, okay, we promise not to make any more Good Omens.
Yeah, it's very convenient because, of course, they never did in the first place.
It's Amazon. But even Amazon could have tweeted that out and it'd have still been funny because there was never going to be any more.
No, exactly. It's funnier coming from Netflix.
Yeah.
It's just a funny situation that they got it that badly wrong, and just just moronic.
Here's the thing, though. I buy that most of those 20,000 didn't make that mistake. They were just handed a petition and told they were to be outraged, so they signed it.
Oh yeah.
I bet most of them wouldn't have known that it would have been wrong. I bet it's just the person who wrote the petition. It's who started it, who made this stupid mistake, and is an idiot, and that's really funny. But yeah, some casting stuff over the next couple of stories. Victoria Pedretti is going to return to the next version of The Haunting. The last one being Hill House, this one being Bly Manor. She's not playing the same character or anything like that. It is a true anthology. She's playing a completely different character. She's actually going to be one of the leads in this case. I mean, she was important in Haunting a Hill House, but she was definitely one of 5 siblings and was the one who was like, I'll just say it, like, dead in episode 1. Like, she's already gone. Like, she's any glimpses you get of her, flashbacks or ghostliness, right?
Sure.
Whereas here, it sounds like she's going to be the lead or one of the main leads of the show. So this is coming in 2020, probably October, because they probably want to hit that Halloween audience again. But The Haunting of Bly Manor is a thing. So wanted to mention that. Other casting for Amazon's The Wheel of Time, Rosamund Pike has been cast as the lead in that show. I've got a description here because it's been a while since we talked about this, but this was something they ordered a while ago. It's one of their big fantasy epic adaptations that they're going to do.
It's, one of the biggest fantasy series in the world.
Oh, I never heard of it until this story, or until we first announced it, but sure. I'll take your word for it. I mean, as far as fantasy books are concerned, I can name you Lord of the Rings. I can name you Harry Potter, I guess, counts.
Yeah, that's contemporary fantasy.
And I can name you... Nah, that's it.
So the worst place, we have spoken on this show about many a fantasy show being picked up and developed. Sure. None of them have stuck with you, apparently.
No, I'll recognize them when I see the names again, but I couldn't tell you the name of them right now. No way. Anyway, The Wheel of Time is set in a sprawling epic world where magic exists and only certain women are allowed to use it. It follows Moraine, played by Pike, a member of the incredibly powerful all-female organization called the Aes Sedai, as she arrives in the small town of Two Rivers. There, she embarks on a dangerous, world-spanning journey with 5 young men and women, one of whom is prophesied to be the Dragon Reborn, who will either save or destroy humanity.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm pretty sure there's some time travel involved.
A little bit. I like Rosamund Pike well enough, but I can't say anything in that description was making me go ooh or ah.
Yeah, no, hey. I'm into it. It's I mean, it's a big classic fantasy epic, and that's up my street.
Michael Chabon has been named the showrunner of Star Trek Picard.
This is exciting for a number of reasons.
Well, we'll get to some of that. So, he's been part of the show's creative team since last year, since it was announced. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author of novels, actually, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, Moonglow, Wonder Boys, and The Yiddish Policeman's Union. Notably in terms of Star Trek, though, he wrote one of the short treks from last year, and that was Calypso, which was the one in the future.
The best one, yeah.
It was the best one, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
It is the best one.
Which is why to be excited, because I was already excited. We knew he was on the writing staff for Picard a long time ago, not long after that short trek, I believe.
Yeah, you said a number of reasons. What's the other reasons?
Oh, just those there, like I say, I already was familiar with some of those, the author works, and then put onto that Star Trek short trek. I believe he's doing another one coming up as well, of the short treks.
Okay.
Could be wrong, because I don't know if you've got this in the news. I know they announced a couple more.
No, never saw it.
So they announced, obviously, because we knew they were doing 2 animated ones coming up at some point. They told us those a while ago. They told a little bit more about them. They were just they're different styles of animation and completely unrelated. And then I think they said there was going to be 4 more live action ones. Michael Giacchino is actually going to be directing one of them.
Well, that's weird.
The composer.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so could be interesting.
Okay. We got our showrunner news as well. Why the Last Man's got a new showrunner because obviously the last one got booted. So Eliza Clark has been named showrunner of Why the Last Man, which is currently still titled just Why. Um, but yeah, so that's coming. The previous showrunners left in April. Clark's past TV credits include Animal Kingdom, The Killing, Extant, and Rubicon. And she's also a playwright. I saw the pilot of Extant, and it was absolutely awful. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think she was a showrunner though. I think she was just like on the writing staff. So
Just
that
a
doesn't
staff
necessarily.
writer, yeah.
Yeah. And The Killing got really bad after like one episode. So, um, not feeling super optimistic. But I mean, she could surprise me because she
It's
wasn't
possible.
because she wasn't the showrunner of any of these shows. I don't believe so. She actually may be quite talented. She's just stuck in a room with idiots. It's always possible. But that gets us on to the main chunk of the news this week. Starting off with Final Fantasy. Yes, I said Final Fantasy. So, Sony Pictures Television is working on a first ever live action adaptation of the series with Hive Mind and Square Enix, the Japanese developer behind the game, is also involved. Exact plot details on the prospective series beyond the source material are being kept under wraps. However, word is that it'll tell an original story set in the fantastic world of Urzea. I'm going to take a stab and say that's pronounced. A continually growing world first introduced in Final Fantasy XIV. Which incorporates characters from across the franchise's long history. See, at first I was confused as to why it was Final Fantasy XIV because I don't really hear that, but it's been talked about as one of the
That's
beloved.
the online one, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's the online one, but it's not one of the beloved numbers. But I think the reason for that is the second part they say there is that it features characters from across all the games, and I feel like that's probably why that's the setting.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't, I can see the logic for using 14 in the sense that it's an online one, so it's got a less okay. This is your narrative, right? Like say 7 or 8, and any of the big ones. They say they have a very clear narrative that people cherish dearly, and you'd have to do a relatively straight adaptation of that. Whereas using the online one gives you a bit more freedom to kind of create your own story in that world. I think.
For better or worse, I'm not convinced that's a good thing necessarily.
It may not be, but I think I can see why
Because
a
to,
creative
to
type would want to do that.
because to me, what I hear there is Paul W.S. Anderson justifying why his Resident Evil movie has no characters from the games in it. That's what I hear from that description you just gave me. And
Sure.
what this makes me think of is Castle Rock. We're not going to adapt any of Stephen King's books. We're going to do this shared universe thing, which seemed like a fine idea, and it was okay to a point, and then
That wasn't inherently a bad idea, though.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like in the context of we've never had. Yeah, but there's been adaptations of Stephen King like tons of times, though, right? So
There is, yeah.
so let's do something different and weird. This is like I mean, not the first movie because it was the animated movie or two, but let's do a live action Final Fantasy fifth or Final Fantasy in general, TV show. But we're not going to do any of the stories from the games. We're just going to mishmash whatever we want.
No, I get that because it wouldn't be a mishmash at all. It would be a completely original story just in the world of one of them, which because they all have their own slightly different settings. They all have their own rules.
No, I'm aware of that, but like, think
So-
about it. Are you telling me you're not expecting like them to start pulling out cameos of characters from various games?
I do now that I know that 14 has that element to it. I was not aware of that.
I'm just thinking, if I was a fan of these games, I think I would be less enthused by this compared to just an actual adaptation of like one of the. Make an anthology because obviously all the games are got their own stories, right? Just do an anthology. Season one's this one. And they don't even have to do them in order. They can just because it's Final Fantasy Season One. Doesn't have to be Final Fantasy One the game. It can be.
Okay,
whatever.
here's the thing though. You often talk about there's an Uncharted movie in production forever, right?
Yes.
And I know you said before, it's like you don't really want an Uncharted movie because the games already do a fantastic job of telling that story, right?
I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going.
Why would you want to go? Oh, well, let's just adapt the game where it already has a fantastic job of telling that story. When you could do, let's do a whole new story.
No, because I'm going to say something here that's going to upset a lot of people. Final Fantasy storytelling is not that good. Okay, you can like the plot, but it's not as good as a Naughty Dog game. It just isn't. It's not even close. And no, I don't understand why people cried at certain scenes in Final Fantasy 7 and 8. I don't understand it.
And there's no arguing with this. There's no arguing with that point. I have just given you a solid logical reason why an original story
Wait,
was a good idea.
because Uncharted and Last of Us are already very cinematic. They already use like cinematography and the way they direct the scenes and the camera cuts. It already has all of the features of a movie or a TV show in it. Final Fantasy games don't have, at least not maybe the newer ones do, but the ones on the PS1 certainly don't, and the ones from Nintendo before that certainly didn't.
It doesn't matter. I think I'm just completely opposed to you on this. But it's all or nothing here on this case. You have to be against them all or with them all.
I could see this.
You can't pick and choose just because you think they're better.
It's not about being better. It's about them already being akin to the storytelling in that medium.
I don't know.
Final Fantasy is still a video game through and through first that has a story. Uncharted and Last of Us are cinematic story games. They just are.
You're sounding pretentious now.
Whatever. I don't really care. They just are. There's a clear difference. That's the argument that something's in color and something's in black and white. One is one is the other.
No, I don't know. I think you just don't like Final Fantasy because it's too anime for you.
I don't have a particular hatred for Final Fantasy. I might even try the 7 remake when it hits. I might take that leap. But like that's not what I'm arguing here. I'm arguing that let's say because no, I can actually give the exact example. I brought up Resident Evil earlier. There's a rumored Resident Evil Netflix TV show happening, which will be set in the world of Resident Evil, and I hate the sound of that, and I'm a fan of that franchise. I would much rather have some kind of like, real-time, like 10-episode adaptation of one of the games. That would be far more exciting to me. This, in the world of Resident Evil, I'm like, well, what are we going to have? Spy shit? No, that's not Resident Evil. Resident Evil's trapped in a location, and you're trying to get out of the situation.
I agree that the spy elements might not be what it works, but just a story of another character in that world experiencing something works for me fine.
There is a small chance that they'll give me something compelling that works kind of on its own merit. The rest of the percentage, whatever it is, 95%, I'm expecting a train wreck that I'm going to hate.
If I want that story, I can go and play that game and get that story, on the screen already. Whereas, they can give you something completely original in that world now. They're not beholden to, okay, we have to do what the game did.
No, and my argument holds up here where I feel the same about Resident Evil, where no, I don't think it's movie quality in terms of storytelling, so I will happily take a good adaptation of it if they want to do that. I'd prefer it even.
You're about those movies, aren't you?
Those movies are garbage. I hate them. I hate them with every fiber of my being. They're terrible. Yes,
I know.
So the point I'm making here is just saying it's because I hate Final Fantasy. No, my argument is the same for Final Fantasy and Resident Evil, and one of them is my favorite my favorite video game franchise, easily. So no, I'm not accepting this. I'm not accepting that I just have a bias.
Okay, fine. You're still wrong, but okay.
The series will explore the struggle between magic and technology in a quest to bring peace to the land in conflict. A feature blend of a new and familiar faces like fan favorite anti-hero Sid. I don't know what one he's in. Maybe just 14. Features and creatures from the game series such as Magitech, Beastmen, airships, and chocobos will also play a part in the TV adaptation. Sure. Okay. Next up,
I know chocobos. That's about it.
Another video game thing. We actually have 2 video game stories this week. Myst. Are you familiar with Myst?
The name rings a bell.
It's an old CD-ROM adventure game. State-of-the-art graphics for the time. I had never played Myst. I know it was big in the 90s for people who were already playing games on PCs and stuff at the time. So that is Village Roadshow Entertainment Group are developing a multi-platform versions of this. Like they want to do TV shows and movies and also unscripted TV shows, which makes, because it's a puzzle game, right? It's like a puzzle adventure game, which makes me think that they're going to do a game show where it's based on the puzzles in Myst, which is actually kind of funny to me. Not actually a bad idea, but just kind of funny. So yeah. So for those what it says here, for those born post 90s, although I was born in 89 and I don't really know much about Myst. Myst was a well-known and popular and hailed as a bold step forward in gaming when it debuted in 1993. It took players to a magical island and had them solve a series of puzzles. The graphics were considered state of the art at the time, and some fans had a quasi-religious attachment to its mythology. Starting to sound a bit like Star Wars. Myst inspired several sequels and spin-offs over the decades, but its primary story follows Atris, grandson of a woman who discovered the Dinne civilization in a cavern deep below the New Mexico desert. These mystical people create books that link to other worlds, but discovery triggers a cultural clash that unfolded over several novels and games. So, yes, they're developing film, scripted and unscripted television content, and original co-creator Rand Miller and his youngest brother Ryan Miller are going to be involved as producers. So,
have any of these multimedia projects worked out yet?
none
You know,
of
the whole we're gonna do TV, we're gonna do movies, we're gonna do everything.
none of them happened yet. To be fair, though, I don't think this is saying that it wants to do what the Dark Tower was going to do, where it's going to have both. I think it's saying they're developing both and seeing which one works.
Right. Okay.
I think they're saying we're going to develop both, see which one feels like they want to go with, and then
that makes more sense because obviously we've had a few of these projects crop up now over the last couple of years, and none of them have actually succeeded or even got off the ground past one of the stages.
Yeah, no, I think that's all it's meaning. So next up, the creator of Maniac, the Netflix limited series from last year, has signed to helm 2 new shows for Warner Media's streaming service.
Interesting.
One's a 10-episode, 30-minute show. It's called Made for Love. It's an adaptation of the novel with the same name by Alyssa Nutting. Half-hour comedy follows Hazel Green, a 30-something woman on the run after 10 years in a suffocating marriage to an unstable tech billionaire. Soon she discovers that her husband has already implanted a revolutionary monitoring device, the Made for Love, in her brain, allowing him to track her, watch her, and know her thoughts and feelings as she tries to stay alive.
Well, that got more interesting.
I feel like it said comedy, but I think it's a comedy in the same way that Maniac was a comedy.
Yeah, a bit of a dark, surrealist comedy.
But it's not a sitcom. It's not like just a laugh track or it's still a story.
It sounds like a slightly funnier Black Mirror.
Yes, I could kind of see that.
Yeah. When you say the creator of, I mean, are you on about the director? Yeah.
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
No. This is not a director. So this is Somerville. This is let me get his name, full name. This is Patrick Somerville, who created Maniac. He will be showrunner on that show for sure. And then the next one's called Station 11, and it'll be directed by Atlanta and Barry director Hiro Mori. So there's some prestigious stuff behind his name. I've heard good things about both of those shows. Yeah. So he's going to direct and serve as executive producer. And Somerville will be showrunner on this. It is a post-apocalyptic saga. This is a limited series as well. 10 episodes. Spanning multiple timelines. The 10-episode limited series is based on the novel by Emily St. John Mendel and tells the stories of survivors of a devastating flu as they attempt to rebuild and reimagine the world anew while holding on to the best of what's been lost.
Okay.
So 10-episode post-apocalyptic show from the creator of Maniac. That does sound intriguing.
Does sound interesting, yeah.
There's a couple of interesting things. So Warner Media have got those two in Dune in the interesting column.
They're starting to tally up a few things, aren't
they? Next up, Netflix is adapting a Scandinavian movie trilogy called Snabba Cash, which translates as Easy Money, into a...
I hope we still call it Snabba Cash. That's way better.
It's a 6-part series, limited series. The series set in Stockholm 10 years after the events depicted in the film, or the films, which is interesting because it maybe makes it... I don't know if it's going to be a strict sequel or if it's going to be more of like a soft reboot where you can still jump into this. Maybe a little bit like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where the movie existed and then the show started, but it was kind of its own fresh thing.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they hand it to me. What can I say? So, It's a buzzing environment where the craving for status and money is stronger than ever. The entrepreneurial jet set, as well as the criminal world, has become even more brutal, chaotic, and ruthless. When these two worlds collide, loyalty, friendships, and business partners will all be tested in the never-ending quest for easy money. The films actually starred Joel Kinnaman.
Of course they do.
Of course they did. So I have to admit, the description does not sound that hot to me. That doesn't sound something I'm into on its own. But I have no idea. For all I know, these films were like really stylish and like.
I can picture them in a Scandinavian, that really bleak style.
Mm-hmm.
As a TV show on Netflix, I don't know. I mean, you take away that style, that tone, which is probably the most intriguing thing about it. I'm less interested.
Who knows? Who knows?
At least until I see a trailer.
Yeah. Showtime is developing a one-hour series about a private military contractor, or several contractors, in fact, with David Ayer on board. He's attached to
your favorite.
Yeah, I know. He's attached to write and direct the series currently titled The Company. It is described as an irreverent look at the military contracting industry during the Wild West heyday post 9/11. Are we calling stuff post 9/11 a heyday now? Is that how far along we are in the timeline?
Apparently, I can see that in context of this. It's like, okay, there was a boom out of panic, and that's kind of subsided now.
Yeah, I guess. It just feels weird to say something in the 2000s was a heyday, but I guess I don't know what I mean. So further described as an anti-procedural. So a serialized story.
That's the most douchebaggery way you could have said that.
Of course, David Ayer said that himself. He came up with that phrase.
Yeah, he definitely did.
It will take the larger-than-life personalities that fight our wars out of the shadows and put them on display. Ayer's executive producing with Chris Long from Cedar Park Entertainment. So
I'm glad that didn't sound too interesting, because you started with an Ayer project, which I can like, but not inherently exciting.
Yeah, I'm good not dealing with this. Thank you very much. I don't want no part of it. Lena Headey has been cast in a pilot. So this is called Rita. This is another Showtime show. It's an hour-long dramedy. It's got a pilot production order at Showtime. Headey's character in the new project is described as a headstrong, unconventional teacher and single mother who takes on every kind of authority, as well as her family, in a messy and unfiltered way. It's been executive produced by Christian Torp and is based on the original Danish series that he also made. So, and Headey's also an executive producer. So, got a dramedy on Showtime.
Sure. Doesn't super appeal to me. That doesn't mean it won't be a good enough quality.
No, I think Headey can pull this kind of thing off, and it's maybe a little bit different from what she's been doing in Game of Thrones for the last several years.
Yeah, I feel like she's done a lot alongside Game of Thrones. She's done a lot of like movies that have been very different roles. You know, kind of just to give her a chance to stretch her legs, so to speak, over the years. I
feel like likable, like single mother who doesn't take shit from people, though, is different from what I've seen her in just typically. She's like, there's so many stuff where she's like a badass or she's the villain in Dread, or like, there's
no, I'm with you.
That's almost like a more normal role that someone could take, which is irregular for her because she's usually doing the tough mum thing.
Yes.
Next up, Paramount Network has greenlit a Michael Chiklis series called Coyote. So Paramount Network's are 10 episodes first season of the show, 1 hour show. Chiklis stars as Ben Clemens, who after 32 years as a border patrol agent is forced to work for the very people he spent his career trying to keep out of America. Now exposed to the life on the other side of the wall, Ben will start to question his black and white views of the world, challenging his ideology and his loyalties. David Graziano will serve as showrunner, and he will write alongside with Chiklis and John Gilbert. So Chiklis is also a writer on this show, interestingly.
So what network did you say this was at?
Paramount Network.
Okay, I have no basis for what their quality is.
Yeah, Yellowstone, their first big show, apparently has been quite late. It's got season 2, and people have been quite positive on it.
Because that was very blunt and in your face in its description.
It was.
And I feel like a show like this, if you're doing that, needs nuance.
Well,
and subtlety.
here's the thing though. I know Michael Chiklis from The Shield, and I can picture him doing this character and it being fantastic. Like I can see him being this
Oh,
kind of,
sure, yeah.
fairly racist dude who kind of like comes out. Like I can see him playing that, and him being excellent in that role. I have no idea what is this going to be more like a Shield in terms of quality or tone, or is it going to be more in your face, like you say? It's hard to tell. And here's the thing: I don't think a description really gives that away, because the description is very blunt, but that's just because we're trying to sell it to people.
Exactly, it could be. Like I say, it's a very blunt description, even by description standards. But maybe the show will handle it well in the end.
Yeah,
It's hard to say.
because it's screaming at us. This is relevant. Look at how relevant we are.
Yeah,
Like that's what it's saying.
a little bit desperate.
And it is relevant. Like I'm not saying it's not, but it's been a little bit in your face with it. Next up, USA Network has ordered a pilot based on the book Masters of Doom, and this does refer to the video game. So we do kind of have a third video game thing, although it's not like a adaptation of the game. It's actually about making the game. So you got David Kushner along with James and Dave Franco on board as executive producers. Masters of Doom is the true story of two computer geniuses in an obscure corner of America who, along with a group of rebellious misfits, created one of the biggest franchises hits of the 90s, the video game Doom. John Carmack and John Romero were best friends who became bitter rivals as they created video games empire that transformed pop culture forever. Should the project get picked up to series, the story of Doom would serve as the first season in a planned anthology, with each season focused on a seminal moment in the history of video games. So this would be fictionalized stories about the video game industry in an anthology show.
I'm familiar with this particular story anyway. I say story, these events.
Yeah, I'm not that much really, but
I've done some reading in the past. It's a great story to tell. In the same way, like The Social Network was a great movie.
Yeah.
I can see this being a great piece of entertainment because it's got the story is already there, even though it's real events.
Yeah. So that was an interesting one. I did not see that coming out of nowhere. So maybe USA. And the thing about USA Network is that while we don't like a lot of their content, Mr. Robot obviously being the exception, this is the sort of thing which this can have like a. They could almost give this like a documentary feel if they wanted to. If they want to give it like a sort of rawness, if that's what the feel they want to go as for, that could totally work. Next up, Letitia Wright, who you might know from Black Panther, and John Boyega, who you might know from the Star Warsies, have been cast in Steve McQueen's show, which was also announced this past week. But I took this story because it was the newest thing of the stories,
sure.
Which is why it started with their casting. It's called Small Axe. It's a BBC drama which Amazon's picked up the US rights for. It's called Small Axe. It's about London's West Indian community between the 1960s and the 1980s. Long gestating series will comprise of 6 parts and tell 5 different stories. Its title is derived from the Jamaican proverb, "If you are the big tree, we are the small axe," meaning the relatively marginal and smaller voices of dissent can successfully challenge the more powerful ones. It's also the title of a Bob Marley song from his 1973 album, Catch a Fire. So, Steve McQueen, of course, this is the director of Shame, of 12 Years a Slave, most recently Widows. He's a fantastic writer-director. So honestly, him doing a 6-episode show is actually very enticing to me. I'm a little bit worried that maybe a little bit too BBC. I often find that BBC shows can feel a little bit too dry, so I am concerned about that. But
it's possible, yeah.
Because I mean, Taboo with Tom Hardy, I believe that was from the writer who did the Tom Hardy movie in the car. Remind me, Lock. Thank you. And that movie is damn near masterpiece levels, and that show bored the everlasting piss out of me. So Chandwick Park, a director I loved, did a BBC drama, and it bored the everlasting piss out of me. So I am trepidatious.
At least with that one though, I can see. Okay, no, he was just doing something entirely different from where his traditional strengths lie for you. Mm-hmm. So at least I can say I wouldn't necessarily blame the BBC on that one. Taboo, I won't stick up for. I liked it more than you did, but
yeah,
I'm not going to say it was very BBC. Yeah, it was.
Yes. Anytime BBC are doing a period drama, I'm just kind of like, it's probably going to be boring. Because it's probably going to be boring. Let's be honest. Hell, one of the worst episodes of the Sherlock was the one that was a period thing for Christmas.
It was. That was a terrible episode, but I'm not blaming that being a period piece as the reason it was terrible.
I just think it's funny though because it adds to the. I mean, the season.
A poor irony, but yeah.
Yeah, the season that came afterwards was also pretty bad. So I mean, I can't really like, just say it was that. But it's pretty funny that kind of worked out that way. But it's called Small Axe, so I'll keep an eye on it because I do like Steve McQueen a lot. But I've been let down with directors I like doing things at BBC before, so we'll see. Yeah. And then the final story of the week. Despite the fact that no other regular networks have got any stories this week, because the main networks,
it's gonna be bloody CBS.
Fox aren't saying anything. NBC, ABC, CW, they aren't saying much this past week, but CBS decided to give a serious production commitment to a show in June, and that show is The Lincoln Lawyer, which you might remember the movie that Matthew McConaughey was in. It's based off the same book. David E. Kelly is going to be working on it, along with Michael Connelly's, based on Michael Connelly's series of books. So, The Lincoln Lawyer settles on Mickey Haller, an iconoclastic idealist. I don't actually know what that word is. Are you familiar with this word?
I have seen it a few times, yeah.
Iconoclastic.
Yeah.
Define the word for us in the comments below, please. I mean, I could just Google it right now, but I'm not going to. That's not as fun. So anyway, he runs a law practice out of the back of his Lincoln Town car as he takes on cases big and small across the expansive city of Los Angeles. It's a very...
Oh, okay. I didn't need the whiskey.
No, it's a very generic CBS description, but it doesn't go into personal and professional lives. So
No.
So you're good.
Oh. A mild surprise there.
A mild surprise on Mailed Fuzz. He's almost cancelled. But that's the news. That's the news. That is us completed another news for the week. Now, before we do the outro here, some updated things. One main one is you're thinking, man, like, okay, there was a week off of the TV news, but it's mostly still been happening. The movie news has not happened like over a month at this point, and you're right, it's not happened in over a month, and that is a shame. It was not planned that way. It just kind of fell into place, and because we'd already switched to doing it every other week, it's been very quickly to like, well, now it's been 7 weeks since we had one because half the weeks didn't have them scheduled anyway. Because we've been very busy. And because of that, moving forward, the plan is going to be to have the movie news kind of transition the same way the trailers did to the live streams that I do. So the movie news will now be live with myself, and I'll get to talk to you guys about it as I do it. What's neat about it, though, is that it'll still probably be... Because the live streams, I don't know how consumable the live streams are after, if they're not live, like if you're watching them later. They're always available for you if you want to watch them. I don't know if it's as fun if you're not in the chat actually talking to me. I think because I will actually be doing news and reading the news out over the course of the show, it'll probably make them a lot more entertaining in hindsight as well.
Should also mention though, it won't all be on there because the horror news.
That's true.
Is moving to a segment on Screams After Midnight. With
yes, we have a horror movie podcast, of course, which I'm sure you've heard us plug before, but Screams After Midnight that I do with Tim. We do a horror movie every week. Sometimes you get a bonus episode too, and if you're a patron, you definitely get a bonus episode once a month for $1. I'll promote that properly in a minute, but we are going to start putting the horror movie news on the start of that show because it makes more sense to talk about the horror movie news with the person that I talk about the horror movies with. That's the simple logic to that, and therefore it'll be me and Tim talking about horror movie news in a few weeks' time. Why a few weeks and not starting this coming week? Because Tim's on vacation for like 3 weeks.
He's a selfish prick.
He's already had like a week or so now, but because of that, the episodes going out in the next couple of weeks will not have the news yet. It'll be after that they'll start having it. But that's good. And no plans to add sci-fi movie news to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Mainly because I feel like it's hard to find sci-fi news on its own. Like, there's a lot of horror websites that just do horror movie stuff.
Sci-fi movies are just kind of scattered in with everything else.
Yeah, it's actually kind of hard to separate them. I don't know. I'll never say never. Maybe it'll be easier than I think it is, but certainly no plans right now to do that. So there you go. But that is that is his TV news.
Well, we should do the updates on what TV has happened and what's coming up. We usually do that at the end of these things.
We do. It's been too long since we recorded one. Go on.
It has. I can tell you that. What have we got on our schedule? Obviously, what has been going up is Dark in the last week or so. That's been pretty good. And Too Old to Die Young from Amazon. We were obviously very excited about that. Those are both, I think since the last time we did the news.
Yeah, all the stuff we had in the past week. Episode of Handmaid's Tale, of course. Episode of Big Little Lies, which I'm doing with Tara.
Legion.
And Legion, which I did on my own. So Legion's back for season 3. It's final season as well.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie though. I was happy when I checked the IMDb for it and saw that it was only 8 episodes like season 1, because season 2 was bloated, and there have only been 8 episodes this season. It actually fills me with more hope. And the first episode was pretty solid actually, so fingers crossed it maintains that, and I'm in a better place with it than I was at the end of season 2.
We were quite busy, obviously with Dark, Taught to Die Young, and Handmaid's Tale. That it was going to be an extra thing to try and squeeze in with me there. And I wasn't feeling super optimistic about watching it anyway, because I really didn't enjoy season 2. No,
it's one of those things where occasionally, to keep the schedule flowing, I'll do the occasional thing on my own to make sure everything keeps going according to plan.
Yeah.
So, no. And if you're waiting for Babylon 5, I know there's not been an episode in a while of that. If you keep up with our older shows, Twilight Zone or Star Trek, me and Car just finished Next Generation Season 1. So there's a little bit of a gap between Season 1 and 2. We're going to have our top 5 episodes of Season 1 video up sometime in the near future. And then it'll be sort of mid-July when season 2 starts going out. So that's an intentional break between seasons. That was not like us. And part of it is because we knew we were going to be busy, but it was like kind of a nice timing thing. Well, that's a nice time to take a break anyway.
And if you have been watching them, we did tell you about it on the last episode, so you should already know. But if you're looking and going, wait, those kind of just stop.
Yeah. But Babylon 5 is actually kind of intentionally not happened in a few weeks, and the reason for that is because Tara's catching up, and once they come back it'll be me and Tara talking about it together, and because of that the schedule will be more consistent than it was when it was just me. So it's actually good news. It just means there's a bit of a wait before we get cracking into them again, but that will be hopefully relatively soon. I'll keep you posted.
We should also, coming up in the next week, Stranger Things.
Yes, if you missed us saying it earlier on in the episode.
Yeah. But I mean, that's back on Thursday, I think it is. So.
That's right. Yeah, it's not Friday. That's weird.
Yeah, because it's July 4th, isn't it? Because America, apparently.
Aye. Freedom and cheeseburgers and whatever.
Yeah. But we do have a couple of other pilots tentatively scheduled on here. Time permitting.
Well, no, one of them's not tentatively because one of them's Patreon.
Okay.
Picked, so that one's happening no matter what. The Roger Ailes one.
You clearly know better than I do.
I do. Connor doesn't know what the rules are, apparently.
I just saw the green tag on our schedule and went, oh, okay, that's a premiere. I don't pay that much attention. So yeah, that is the updates. So yeah, obviously you can support us by liking, subscribing. If you're on a podcast app, give us a 5-star rating and reviews on there. Helps us out a lot. As does, of course, going to Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. We can support us for as little as $1 per month, and you get a bunch of bonuses. You get an exclusive episode of the Screams After Midnight once a month, an exclusive episode of the Atomic Cinema Experiment podcast, which is the sci-fi movie podcast, and coming very soon, actually, the next installment of Mail Fuzz Mysteries, in which me and Connor do a show for the $1 tier, where we just pick topics off of a board. I mean, I make the board up. Connor doesn't know what they are. He picks them, then we talk about that topic for a little bit. It's very random. It's just kind of casual, but it's usually like an extra 90-minute show. We just chat shit for an hour and a half.
Yeah, for your $1. So if that is intriguing to you, go check that out. And obviously, there's more stuff at the $5 tier and up if you want to check out some of the other stuff too. But go over there and have a look. Otherwise, though, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?